me get this up. Yeah, there we go. Hello, greetings, everyone. This is Louis George Walker coming to you from the KUAW radio remote location right here in Kansas City, Missouri. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, KUAW, broadcasting to you today as a project of the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center and the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. I'm glad to be with you today. I've been out in the yard getting some grass cut and a few other things, but that's one of the things about working in a remote location you can do. But yeah, we want to go into our show today, and we're going to talk about some of the trends in technology just a little bit, because that's one thing we want to do is keep moving forward, keep staying abreast of what's happening, because the world and things are changing at a rapid pace. And if we don't keep up, we can get left behind, and nobody wants to be left behind in this technology race, playing the catch-up game. So let's talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to try a couple of things. I haven't looked at my Facebook feed while we were online because I wasn't sure if it would come in and mess up the broadcast, but I wanted to try that, trying a few new things just to make sure that I can interact with you if I need to. If I can turn the volume off on the Facebook so it doesn't give us an echo, but I do want to see about bringing in the sound. So we're going to do a live test here just to see if this will work. If not, y'all text me or put it up on Facebook and tell me you're getting echoes and stuff like that, and I will take that down. But I want to see if we can try talk a little bit about do this. I'm going to try a couple of things. And I take the sound out of it now. There we go. Okay, so we're up here on our Facebook site right now. We're sharing the data. Share the page. Yes. So if I sound okay to you guys, give me a thumbs up or shoot something to me. Let me know that you are able to see this. I'm gonna go back to my OBS. I'm thinking about hooking up two monitors on one computer so that I can have my Facebook and have this OBS that lets me see what's going on live and right now on at the same time. So if we can do that, we can bring you more reaction. We can interact better, and that's what we want to do, is try to interact with the audience as much as possible. So yeah, I'm able to see. So if you have any comments or anything that you would like to bring up, let me know. I'm gonna, you see, I don't want to cascade my windows. Show windows side by side. Hey there. That's a little bit about what I want to do. We're getting up in here, and we can see that. And we're going to get it where we can see Facebook and interact with them both on this screen, although I have to make them smaller. If I had two screens up here, I could do this a little more at ease. But yeah, okay. So if you have any comments, be sure and post them. I'll be able to see you on the KUAW radio site. KUAW is coming to you a lot of different ways. We have an audio broadcast, which is audio only. And it broadcasts on the online radio box, on TuneIn, on Radio Garden, on MyTuner. So you've got 4 ways that you can pick us up on the audio only, and that broadcasts 24 hours a day with music, news, and information. So we have talk shows on there, we have syndicated shows, and we play some music. Our Professor Smooth Jazz show is really taking off. Mr. Ricky Colston does Professor Smooth Jazz, and he's been doing interviews with jazz artists from all across the country. And we're starting to post those up on YouTube. The new ones go up every Saturday on Facebook and YouTube at 2 o'clock. Catch the Professor Smooth Jazz interviews. So he's interviewing jazz artists, and you can see these interviews live on Facebook, KUAW-radio, and on YouTube, KUAW Space Radio. So if you go to either of those sites, every Saturday now at 2 o'clock, we've started a broadcast of Professor Smooth Jazz interviews. So you check out the one that went up there this Saturday. Miss Jasmine Gent is the smooth jazz artist that we had on there. So there's a real nice interview. You can see it on Facebook, or you can get it on our YouTube page. So we're trying to bring you something all the time. And we're going to start putting the audio version of these interviews onto our KUAW radio audio side. So we've got a lot of things that we're doing as we keep trying to evolve this technology, because one thing we want to do is try and keep up. We're probably doing a little catch up at the radio station, but we're also kind of leading in some things that we do also. So we're wanting to stay up there, and that's why I wanted to talk about technology, because technology is changing quite a bit. The technology from 10 years ago that was maybe cutting edge is maybe just ho-hum right now. Things that they were talking about we're going to break through are already here, and we're working with them. Some things that we used to use a lot are gone. So we're going to talk about that, but as we always do, we want to give you a couple of views of what's going on with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. That's what's happening at NASA. Yes, NASA has been doing a lot of interesting things over the last few days, so we want to catch up on that, from the rover that's on Mars and the drone flights that have been happening up there, to a splashdown that happened at night. They brought some astronauts back and they landed in the ocean at night, which is, I thought, whoa, that's like a little bit different, you would think. But I guess if you can pinpoint where you're coming all the way from outer space, a few 100 million miles or whatever it is up in space to the Earth, you can probably know where it's going to land. So they did that as the first nighttime landing since 1968. So they're real excited about that. So we're going to go right now and see a little bit of what's happening this week at NASA.
A record-breaking spaceflight for the Crew-1 mission, swearing in NASA's new administrator, and the anniversary of the first American in space. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. After departing the International Space Station on May 1st, the SpaceX Resilience Crew Dragon spacecraft safely re-entered the atmosphere in the pre-dawn hours of May 2nd and slowly descended back to Earth with the astronauts of our SpaceX Crew-1 mission.
Even though it's nighttime, we have some great visuals of Dragon there with its 4 main chutes deployed.
The spacecraft and its crew safely splashed down at 2:56 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time off the coast of Panama City, Florida, wrapping up a 168-day mission, a new record for an American long-duration crewed spacecraft mission.
I think everything went like clockwork. In fact, I'm not aware of any objectives that weren't accomplished for our mission. And so on behalf of Crew-1, we want to thank all of the organizations and companies and personnel that contributed to this mission.
Crew-1 also was the first night splashdown of a U.S. crewed spacecraft since Apollo 8's pre-dawn return in the Pacific Ocean on December 27, 1968.
I, Bill Nelson.
I, Bill Nelson.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I
Senator Bill Nelson took office as the 14th Administrator of NASA on May 3rd after being sworn in by Vice President Kamala Harris during a ceremony at the Eisenhower Executive Office Building in Washington. The U.S. Senate confirmed Nelson to serve as the NASA Administrator April 29th. He has an extensive history of working with NASA and has been integral to the agency's current successes. He is looking forward to seeing continued success for the NASA family in the future.
Not only are we going back to the moon and then on to Mars, but look at the scientific achievement that we're going to do. And along the line, inspire a whole new generation of students in science and technology and engineering and mathematics.
May 5th marked the 60th anniversary of NASA astronaut Alan Shepard's historic flight aboard the Freedom 7 spacecraft, making him the first American to travel into space. The flight, which launched aboard a Redstone rocket from Cape Canaveral, lasted just over 15 minutes and demonstrated that a human being could work and survive in space using American-built technology. NASA and Boeing are targeting 2:53 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time Friday, July 30th for the launch of the company's Starliner Uncrewed Orbital Flight Test 2 to the International Space Station. A July 30th launch would lead to rendezvous and docking with the space station on the evening of July 31st. Our Commercial Crew program is working with industry through a public-private partnership to provide safe, reliable, and cost-effective transportation to and from the station, which serves as humanity's springboard to space exploration, including future missions to the Moon and eventually to Mars. High-voltage functional ground testing with NASA's first all-electric X-plane, the X-57 Maxwell, is underway at our Armstrong Flight Research Center in Southern California. The X-57 is currently in its first configuration as an electric aircraft called Mod 2. The developmental plane will eventually perform flights to help develop certification standards for emerging electric aircraft. NASA is also supporting these new electric aircraft by developing quiet, efficient, reliable technology these vehicles will need in routine use. During a brief swing by the planet Venus, our Parker Solar Probe detected a natural radio signal. Data from the past, which were translated to sound using data sonification, revealed that the spacecraft had actually flown through the planet's upper atmosphere, making it the first direct measurement of the Venusian atmosphere in nearly 30 years. The Parker Solar Probe mission makes a series of close flybys of Venus that are designed to leverage the planet's gravity to help the spacecraft get closer and closer to the Sun. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan.
Okay. Yeah, there I am. I'm back. Yeah, when you're pushing all these buttons, sometimes you forget one. But that was very interesting of NASA. Now, the space things were good, but the thing that really caught my eye is the electric airplane. So a flight of a plane that doesn't use gas, using no piston engines, that really is intriguing that they're working on that, meaning that they've got a lot of battery power to be able to have a craft that can fly, or they're working on a craft that can fly off of electricity only. That would be a huge breakthrough. It'd be quieter, definitely would be probably more carbon friendly, although it's not carbon zero unless they're charging the batteries or getting it ready to fly with solar. But if we plug things into the wall and it comes from a coal-fired or a diesel-fired power plant, we're still using some energy, but it's generally more efficient than using a car or a plane or any piston engine. So, we're working to get better at saving the atmosphere, saving the earth, more ecologically sound travel, and that's real interesting. So, yeah, an electric plane. That's something, but that's how technology is changing, and that's what we were talking about. Something that seems maybe far-fetched now, or just in the beginning stages, like electric airplanes. We're thinking, wow, but 10 years from now, you may think nothing of it and say, oh yeah, they fly like that all the time. That's the way technology is constantly changing, constantly moving. So for us, not just for your day-to-day around the house and using new gizmos and gadgets like that, but think about your careers, think about education. What do you want to study? What's going to be moving as you get to make advances in your job or in school that you want to prepare for, so that when you get out and you want to start your own business, what are you going to be shooting for? What audience, what problem are you going to solve that can be solved in a new way? And thinking of it in technology terms can be what we really need to do. So that's one thing you want to look at, is not just that the technology is changing and we say, ooh, wee, but what problems are we going to be able to solve? And a lot of the young people and older people out there today can be preparing for that. Now we're going to do one more video from NASA They're kind of talking the same thing because it was real exciting, but this is the Space to Ground podcast of NASA. What you just saw was This Week at NASA, where they kind of go over things. We're going to do the Space to Ground podcast, and I like to do it because I'm kind of working with pulling stuff right live off of the internet and showing it to you, and I want to see if I can get a little bit better at it. So let's look right now at this week's Space to Ground from NASA. Let's see if I can get you set up here.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Sandra Jones. This week, 4 humans successfully splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico after a nearly 6-month mission in space, and science abounds on the International Space Station.
Dragon, SpaceX on the big loop, all hooks open and nominal.
Current copies, we see separation.
On Sunday, May 2nd, SpaceX's Crew Dragon, carrying NASA astronauts Michael Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi returned to Earth, completing a successful splashdown at 2:56 a.m. Eastern Time off the coast of Panama City, Florida. Crew 1 is the first night splashdown of a U.S. spacecraft since Apollo 8 in 1968. This also marks the longest duration mission of a crewed American spacecraft to date. Back in space, the crew is keeping busy with science investigations and studies aboard the space station. One important investigation includes the continuing tissue chips in space studies. Tissue chips are small models of human organs containing multiple cell types, which behave similarly as they do in the body. These chips make it possible to identify safe and effective therapies like drugs or vaccines much more quickly than on Earth. The changes that occur in the human body during spaceflight resemble the onset and progression of aging and diseases on Earth, but happen more quickly in microgravity. Scientists can study tissue chips in space to model diseases that may take months or years to develop on Earth. But the science doesn't stop there. This week, NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough utilized Astrobee robotics to conduct research related to space debris. The experiment, named Relative Operations for Autonomous Maneuvers, or ROAM, demonstrates processes for a robotic craft to rendezvous with debris in space. Space debris can include objects like satellites that could be repaired or taken out of orbit. However, because many of these objects are tumbling, it makes rendezvous and docking challenging. ROAM uses the space station's Astrobee robots to observe and understand how targets tumble and uses this information to plan ways to safely reach them. This research could help address how space debris decreases the availability of safe orbits for satellites, including those critical for weather observation, climate monitoring, and communications on Earth. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right, that was it. It was a short one this week, but that's okay. Got some information there that seemed very, very timely too, because was it the chips, the chips that can model organs or parts of the human body that they can work on up there in space. Very interesting. So those are a lot of the things that are happening. You know, and we talk about technology and the advances of it, and things really do move. Some of it seems a little funny, but at times you have to look at technology is moving. I know when my parents were young and coming up, record players were brand new. And a lot of people don't know what record players are now, but that was a new thing, was to have a record player, and they played, records, and that lasted from in the 30s, the 20s and 30s, all the way up until the 60s and 70s, that record players were the main way of having music in your home, or the music that you wanted at the time you wanted. They had the radio that played music, the same records, but you could bring it home and play it as you wanted with a record player. a real expensive item when it first came out, and then before it ended, record players were everywhere. You could buy them for $10 or $15. They ran off of batteries. They were, just nobody gave it a second thought about having a record player. But record players are gone now. They were replaced. As record players were coming along, there were tape recorders, and they played tapes, and then you had the 8-track tape player, which everybody makes a lot of fun of now. But now, as I was in high school, the 8-track tape, and even before then, the 4-track tape was the item to have in your car, because you could then have the music that you wanted, because record players are hard to play in a car because the bouncing around would make the needles jump and skip, so you didn't want that. And then when they came out with the tape players that went in your car, it was fantastic because you could have your own music or the albums that you bought. There wasn't a lot of mixtapes, but actually record shops were in the business of recording tapes for you, and they would make copies of the latest songs on tape, and you could buy that. So you had mixtapes, if you want to say, that were 8-track and 4-track homemade mixtapes that were revolutionary. But then as the 8-track or the 4-track was replaced by the 8-track, soon the 8-track was replaced by the cassette. Then the cassette was replaced by the CD, and then the CD gets replaced by the USB stick, the thumb drives, and then the thumb drives are now being replaced by streaming services like Spotify and those that are coming. So there's a steady progression, and if you thought you were going to just stay in the 8-track business and that was it, you're never going to change, you got a problem right now. If you thought you were going to do the CD business, and boy, I'm making CDs and I'm copies and this and that, and this is all I need, well, you would be in trouble there because nobody's going around looking for CDs much. I mean, they're still selling some, but that's not the main way of making money in music off of CDs even anymore. There's still a lot out there, but they're going out. Pretty soon with the flash drives, which they're used so. I've got a flash drive player in my car. I can put my USB stick right into a USB slot, and I've got, thousands of songs on a little thumb drive that, I drive around and I listen on that. As they get this 5G model and you get more and more connectivity to the internet and even in your car, then I look for in the future, and not too far off, that a lot of the streaming services will be available in your car. They're available now. It's just that getting the stream in isn't as available. But as they're doing more towers, more antennas, these micro cells, pretty soon you'll be able to drive around the city and pick up Spotify as you're driving seamlessly, no skips, no anything. That's going to be happening. That's one reason why KUAW Radio is an internet completely digital radio station right now, because the future of radio is going to be through the internet. That's where a lot of your broadcasts are going as far as the television, streaming videos and all that, what you're watching me on right now, and what we're listening to. So our radio station is an internet-only radio station that if you can't pick it up in your car now, you will be able to soon. And if you've got any car in the last 3, 4, 5 years, you've got the ability to pick us up right now, because our TuneIn radio station is available on the air. So you could pick up KUAW if you go to TuneIn on your radio. Yeah, you can pick us up now. If you pull us up on your phone and your phone has a Bluetooth connection to your car, or if your car has Bluetooth connections, yeah, you can pick us up as you're driving around. You can listen to KUAW radio. You can pick us up right now on your Apple, not your Apple, but your Amazon smart speaker or your Google smart speaker. If you tell it to play KUAW and get it right, because sometimes it wants to still play KUOW, but that's it, understanding our voice. But if you say, hey, Alexa, play KUAW, it'll start playing. You'll hear our broadcasts. You'll hear our songs. You'll hear our Professor Smooth Jazz. You'll hear some of our old school jam. You'll get these broadcasts right there. So that's showing you how technology changes and how it steadily moves. I was looking at an article, and it says that, you know, what people needed 10 years ago is not the need today. You know, this was made by Nipuna Silva, and it was published on what was this? LinkedIn, Then and Now and Beyond. So I pulled that up because I wanted to take a look at some of the things going on, and it was really interesting as I was reading through it. But it says, you know, trends of the present day will not be the trend in another decade. So what's a trend right now, 10 years from now is not going to be. But trends are connected. The past, the present, and the future. Trends evolve, and so should we. We've got to evolve too. You can't necessarily say, well, I don't want to go with that. If you want to stay up with the trends that are going on, and not just keeping up with the Joneses, but in order to get the latest news, get the latest information. I mean, how many people listening to me right now take a newspaper that's delivered to their house daily? To where a few years ago, or definitely 20 years ago, 25 years ago, which is a while, there were newspapers thrown to almost every house. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, practically everybody took a paper. In Kansas City, they had two papers. They threw a paper in the morning, and they threw a paper in the afternoon. So, you know, when we were young, 50, 60 years ago, we had two newspapers that were thrown, and we still had to call a newspaper that was a weekly. But all of that news was being given to you on paper. Now, how many people do you know that take the Kansas City Star? That's a trend that's moving. Now, it's not that the Kansas City Star isn't putting out news anymore. No, it is. But they had to change. They're still doing a paper thing, but they knew that to stay in business, to keep going, they have to start having a digital format. That's where people are getting the news. So if you're following the news, you may still be getting a newspaper, but you could follow it even faster if you get the Kansas City Star online, where you could pick up the digital copy of it and get it, you know, first, hot off the presses, and have it with you wherever you go. So, you know, that's how technology is changing, and we've got to stay with it. The thing that struck me, one of the things that struck me in there too, was that they talked about the internet and how many people would be using it. And in 2010 and below, there was still right at 500 million people that were using social networks in 2010. Now you get to 2021 and there's billions, over 5 billion people that are using social networks, that are connected to the internet. In 2010, 2008, the internet, you may have it, you may not, you could take it or leave it. Now, it's something that we're really, what happened to my picture? There we go. Now the internet is something that we're really using. We're using a lot of. So that's something that you have to stay aware of, is that technology changes, the trends change, and we've got to change right along with them. We've got to keep up. Oh, we should. I don't say you got to, because you do have a choice. There are people that are living off the grid, that go and live in places and don't have phones, electricity, any of that stuff that could keep them tied to the network or to the rest of society. And I'm not to say that they're wrong, because if you can live off the grid and you enjoy it, more power to you. But if you're living in the city and you're enjoying living in the city, then that's something that you want to keep going. Let's see, what are we broadcasting here? We had some other stuff going out on the broadcast. Yeah, you have to watch this as you're going along. I think I took that off. Yeah, we should have took that off. That gets interesting. But I'm I'm glad to be practicing with this. But yeah, let's think about that. Think about keeping up with the technology, everything that's going on in it, and stay in pace. And same way with school and education. You need to be looking at where are we going educational-wise. It showed with the pandemic that having the internet at home and having a high-speed connection was something that was very valuable. But the other thing to that is that our schools and our teachers have to be up to the new technologies. Because we had the need for new technology. They were scrambling to put it in. But then you have to have that gap of how many people knew how to use Zoom, knew how to use Microsoft Teams, who were using GoToMeeting and doing it effectively, especially working with children. What kind of curriculum was being used? How were they interacting with the kids in this remote world? So that's something that we learned some lessons on, and that we'll be probably talking about them for the next few years as they move forward, because people are talking about going back to normal, but normal is going to be a little different than what normal was before the pandemic. Yeah, we'll go back to being able to shake hands, to hug again. I mean, I was over at my brother's house yesterday. With the pandemic, we're all vaccinated. His wife, my wife, everybody's been vaccinated. So we could talk without masks. We could touch each other. We could, hug. We could do that. So that's coming. But the world of the internet, the world of doing things virtually, isn't going to go back to the way it was. There's going to be a lot of Zoom meetings and even more, even after this is over with. There'll be a lot more people working from home. There'll be a lot more of using the technology in remote fashion. So we've got to stay up on that as a community, as a people, because we've got to develop in that. We need to know about the security of it. We need to know how to invest in it, because there's money that's going to be made there too. So you might look at, okay, what companies should I be investing in? How am I going to grow with this new technology that's coming along that everybody's working with? So those are all things that we want to make sure that we take advantage of as times are changing, as the world keeps evolving. And that's what the world does. It constantly evolves. New technology is not something that just happened in the 20th century. It wasn't just something that happened in the 19th century or the 21st century. We're just moving at a faster rate, but there's always been a new technology. So don't think that, this is something the world's never faced before. I mean, you look back, and a lot of you probably in school early on heard about the Gutenberg press that was invented, that all of a sudden they didn't have to hand scribe every book. It was a time when every book that was made, somebody had to write it word by word, letter by letter, by hand. And they'd write that, and when they got it all wrote, they had a book. Then they'd write the same book again. So if you wanted to get 3 or 4 copies of it, somebody had to sit and write that whole thing, and the whole book every time. Then a technology came along. The printing press, the Gutenberg press. All of a sudden, the letters could be set out for the book, and boom, it was pressed, and then they put another sheet in there, and boom, they pressed again. So books became available to the masses. All of a sudden, books prices dropped. All of a sudden, the people that were doing a lot of the handwriting of books had to find new careers, had to make changes, because books were coming out. They said, we don't need 100 or 200 monks in here copying so many pages of the Bible at a time, and we can only put out so many Bibles. We're printing, 100, 200 Bibles a day over here. And they're going at it. And they all look exactly the same. So technology has been happening in us. So the Gutenberg press revolutionized printing, just like having CDs and DVDs and being able to email and stuff revolutionized another communication. So it's not something that mankind is just now facing. It's something that's been with us as long as there's been mankind. We've always tried to do something a little better. We always try to solve a problem. That's why wheels were invented. That's why levers were invented. and stuff, there was problems. You know, you couldn't lift a heavy weight. There was only so much a man could lift with his own hands. But they found that with a lever, they could multiply that strength, that force, and be able to lift or move larger objects than they could just with their bare hands. So those are things that are part of us that make us different from a lot of other living beings and stuff, is that we're changing, looking at doing things new, and other creatures probably do some changing too. I mean, evolution happens and stuff, but we do it in a rapid pace. Mankind's been moving pretty fast, and you know, you just got to hang on and go for the ride. It's not bad. It can sometimes be challenging, sometimes scary, frustrating, and all of that. But let's embrace this technology. Let's keep working with it. No, you know, it's not that the technology itself is necessarily good or bad, it's how we use it. So I want to say today is that let's stay with that. Let's go with the technology. Let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. Let's invest. Let's create some of the technology things ourselves so that we can move even forward. Let's get our educational institutions, our teachers, and the whole education industry to start looking at how we use technology, how they can push technology into the lifestyles of what we do and what we're about. We've got to keep growing. We've got to keep inventing and moving things forward. The world has always done it, and I think the world will continue to do that. So that's what we should do. Lastly, before I get off the air here, I want to talk about some of the violence that's happening in Kansas City. That's something that has really been, I mean, we set a record last year in murders, but not just murders, shootings, violence, armed violence has been ticking up. You know, we count the murders and say that that's really bad, but there are a lot of people shot that don't die. And that's still bad. You know, that is even worse. It even compounds it. So we have a lot of aggression. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of violence that we need to see how we can get to the bottom of it, how we can stop it. I don't know. I'm not the person with all the answers, but I do know that we've got to work on it. We can't leave it for other people to do. That's something that there's a lot of young people out working on, and I applaud you. And we've got to find a way to stop this violence. It is way too much. We've got to be able to do that. I also want to say, went down on the 18th and Vine this first Friday that they had, my wife and I. It was really nice. We had a nice time. There were people out. They had security there. They blocked off the streets now on 18th Street. It was blocked off between Vine and Woodland, I believe, or Highland. And so there's no traffic there, and they had tables set out. They had vendors out. A lot of young entrepreneurs out there, and I mean, they're pushing the game up, where everybody used to just have stuff on their tables and all. There's people down there now that bring the trailer. Lady had, or man, I don't know, it was an entrepreneur, but they had a trailer there with the outfits with clothes and stuff inside. You could walk through. It's taking it a step higher, but it definitely made them stand out, and that's what it's about. You got to innovate. So now that people are bringing the walk-in trailers and stuff out, it's good to see entrepreneurs working. And it was really, you know, nice. People were having a good time. I just really enjoyed it. So I'd like to say to everyone, if you haven't been to the 18th and Vine area on First Friday, you need to go. You need to go. You need to check it out and stuff. I mean, it's young people, it's old people, it's everybody out there. And it's business being done. You know, there's a lot of cosmetics, a lot of things that people are making, and we have makers that are making jewelry and selling art. And it's not everybody buying stuff, say that was made somewhere else and selling it, but there's a lot of people that are making stuff themselves and creating businesses themselves there. So if you want to support business in our community, you should buy and shop in the community and from people of the community as much as possible. And then these young entrepreneurs that are starting on the street corners at the fairs and at the events, you should patronize them also. So, you know, get your cleaning done at a local Black-owned cleaner. Yeah, get your clothes. You know, there's a lot of boutiques and a lot of shops that you can buy your nice outfits and stuff that you need to be checking that out. There's a lot of caterers and barbecue. You know, we do that good here in Kansas City. So, you know, go out and support the businesses that are in your community. Let the dollar spin around in your community a little bit longer so that it can do a little bit more. So we need to make sure that we do that. So be sure and go online, check out the Buy Black locations where you can help young or starting and entrepreneurs and businesses get a foothold and keep growing. And look for businesses that are starting off from people like you. And we do all kind of things. If you're going, I like to go fishing and stuff, where you've got people that are African-American that are fishing guides that will take you fishing and stuff. That's something that we do. As you know, so you've got graphic designers, you've got programmers, you've got people in marketing. There's people, and we're going to start having more businesses on this show. I'm going to invite people. I'm part of a couple of different business websites or Facebook sites and stuff. I'm going to start inviting some of them if they want to come and talk about their business on the BFTAA and more show. We need to have them talk about it. And it doesn't have to be all technology businesses. So if you have a business, if you have a service, if you have a product that you would like to expose to the community, contact us right here at KUAW Radio. You can email us at KUAW985@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Facebook. Make an appointment that you would like to talk about your business, that you would like to be interviewed. Go on KUAW Radio on Facebook and make an appointment to meet with us and talk about what your product, your service, your business idea is. We'll be glad to help you and hear about it. I like to learn about what people are doing in the community myself. So yeah, let's do that. So if you know somebody that's starting up a business or has been in a business a long time, we really like to hear from you technologists out there. But get in touch with KUAW Radio. Tell a friend. Tell everybody about it, and we'll be glad to have you on here. I want to thank you all for listening. Thanks especially to my wife, Mildred. She's one of the top fans. She's here all the time supporting the work that we're doing right here at KUAW Radio. We love you. All right. Let's have a good day. We'll see you here next Monday. Also, continue to listen to KUAW Radio. Yes. Go to KUAW Radio on Facebook. Listen on our TuneIn or My Tuner on your Google or Amazon speaker. Be sure and check us out. KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. And this is the BFTAA and More show. Glad that you were with us today. Have a good evening.